Good evening and welcome to the Rules and Public Policy Committee. My name is Bob Osley, Chairperson of Rules and Public Policy Committee. I'd like to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting with Chairman Gray.
I feel like, I don't know, dress a little bit more acceptable here. Your elected officials of city
Councilor Ali
government.
Brown, District 5.
Dan
Take
Boots,
this.
District 3, Lawrence, Washington Townships.
Just as embarrassing.
Councilor Michael Paul Hart, representing District 18.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Mike Dilk, District 24.
Thank you, Mr. President. Paul Arnay, District 23.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Keisha Jackson, District 14, representing Lawrence and Warren Townships on the Far East Side.
Thank you, Mr. President. Leroy Robinson, District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maggie Lewis, District 10.
Very good, thank you. All right, we have two proposals before us tonight. Proposal number 306, which amends chapters 141, 151, 175, 192, 285, 293, and 431 of the revised code to change the British English spelling of counselor with two L's to the American
This
English
is what we're
counselor
focused
with
on,
one.
huh, boys? All right.
Following that, we will have proposal number 362, which establishes a study commission for AI. Is anyone here to speak on proposal number 306?
How about changing?
All right, seeing no one, 306 is simply, I think, the clarification or the simplification of the spelling of counselor. It's been important to, I think, a number of colleagues over the years that we be consistent with the American spelling of it. The double L being the British way of doing it, and that most council chambers in the country simply have one L, and when online or when spelling something, we often get a correction, an autocorrect, when spelling with two to reduce it to one. I think this just clarifies that and makes us consistent across the board. Are there comments or questions from fellow councilors? Leader Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move proposal number 306 to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
All right. Proposal's been properly moved and seconded. Any additional comment? If not, then we shall vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, well, that motion carries. Thank you all. All right, proposal number 362 establishes a study commission to review the city and county's current use of artificial intelligence, AI, and its associated technologies. 2, gather information from AI experts, industry leaders, and community members as to how AI can be used in the future to provide better services to the citizens of the consolidated city. 3, recommend to the mayor and elected county officials policies for trustworthy and transparent usage of AI as part of the provision of services by departments and agencies. And then 5, recommend to the City County Council the modification of any existing ordinances or the provision of new ordinances establishing trustworthy and transparent usage. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of proposal number 362? Yes, Councilor Hart.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. I'll give you some background to kind of how we got here today. This was just something I threw on the agenda and said, let's go for it. I'm definitely not winging it. It's something I've been working on for the better part of 6 or 7 months now, meeting back with our Director of ISA, Colin Hill, to really kind of understand, where we were in this process with artificial intelligence. So just for everybody, as a reminder, anybody watching at home, my background is in technology, and this artificial intelligence has been a technology that's just been exponentially growing over the last couple of months, and there's been a huge expansion of it. Every day I can't go by without talking about it and learning about it. And so with the investment that I have with the city, my question to our director was, where are we at with it? And we had some room to grow. And given some experience that I had on a commission for the city back in 2020 on sustainability, I really put these two things together and said, well, this is something that we can do really in a similar fashion. And so worked with some other counselors, or had some conversations with them, specifically Councilor Barth, to really ask him about his experience in putting that commission together. He directed me to Director Brands, who's also happily here today, we had a coffee about it, and she gave me some advice. And I took that advice and started really talking with a lot of stakeholders here in the city, Colin being one, our Chief of Staff, Director Parker, Abby, and our Director of Strategic Initiatives, Aaron, to just understand what are some of the opportunities that we can look to achieve with that. I've gone beyond our city stakeholders, and over the summer I hosted what were called breakfast industry series, where I actually met with various industries, some of them part of the city themselves. One of them that stood out to me the most was our dispatch. Learning about our call wait times was just an opportunity that all these technologies could come together, and everybody had suggestions of ways that we could improve it. And so, again, after talking with Colin, to me it was apparent that we had to move forward, we had to do something, but jumping into a solution is, especially when it comes to technology, isn't something you can just do overnight. The planning for it, the budgeting for it, the implementation, all of these things take time. And when we talk about AI, you have to add an entire layer on top of that. That layer being privacy, that layer being compliance, and making sure that we are protecting the citizens of the city of Indianapolis, but also protecting the data and those from the city as well. And so that's where this proposal comes into play. That's where this commission comes into play, that we are looking at the opportunities we can to offset some of the capital needs that we have within the city from our human capital, right? I talked to personally many departments that struggle to hire folks. This is an opportunity to study to find ways to embrace the level of AI to enhance our efficiencies where we have a lack of human capital. This is an opportunity to study those privacy measures where I know we actually have some implementations we've done today. I think, Leader Lewis, you've got some of these where we've used AI systems on top of camera systems, and the ACLU has raised awareness to this. These are opportunities where we can bring the ACLU into the commissions to start proactively asking these questions, so we're not implementing these things years down the road, and then we're hit with some sort of privacy issue, that we're being proactive both from a council and from a city stakeholder standpoint, which is why the report at the end of this goes to both of those stakeholders. Beyond that, this can look at really looking at my vision for this is to create or find 5 initiatives that we can work to solve. Over this week alone, I've been working with some from the tech industry, the tech giants of the world that want to be part of this, that want to invest in the city of Indianapolis. And I actually kind of put them back at bay and said, we need to study this first, we need to learn about this first. But I also have meetings later this week with a lot of those similar stakeholders that I mentioned earlier, 2 of them being in the audience today, to learn, to bring them some of the suggestions that we have that I've also got from members of our community that say they want to see some of these items being addressed, such as MAC efficiencies, traffic studies, the timing of lights to reduce emissions that help with sustainability goals. There are many ways that this goes beyond just what we're doing with the study, but how it can impact many other parts of the city. So, taking this and moving it forward, I think would be a good opportunity to learn, but also to prepare for the inevitable initiatives that are going to come when it comes to technology and artificial intelligence, and to help use the knowledge and connections that I have as a counselor to improve the city of Indianapolis and make us ultimately what my vision is to be the smartest city in America. And so with that, I will yield back the time and happily take any questions that anybody has on this.
This is so dangerous and very short-sighted by Michael Paul Hart. I don't know what the fuck he's thinking on this whole thing. So let's just kind of go through it before they start asking questions. The first thing was talking about dispatch, which I kind of get, but like I've been on a bunch of ride-along. So unless they're talking about having like automated stuff for 911 calls, you're just asking for a giant clusterfuck to happen. The traffic lights, like I totally understand. The stoplights and all of that would actually make much more sense. Why this shouldn't be happening for that already is beyond me. But the human capital thing was pretty funny too. It's like there's just not enough people to fill these jobs. Well, there are people that just don't want the job, so we're going to replace them with AI. But even that, you don't have the touch and feel for the things where they need to go. It's like it sounds like blank. Like it's just a robot, and whatever programming is put in front of it is what it's going to follow. It doesn't know the difference between some kind of emotion or smile or whatever, especially through the phone. The ACLU is such a corrupt institution. I don't even know why he's bringing it up, unless it's to try and play on the Democrat side of, hey, this could benefit you too. It will also be weaponized against all of us if it does not fit whatever their narrative or agenda is. These tech giants that's calling him up and saying, let's do this whole thing. Well, right now, what he's proposing is a free board on studying everything. These tech giants, whoever they are, they don't have to invest any kind of money for initial research on what is needed and how we're going to get there. I got a feeling though that this is going to be used for campaign funding, because he is bringing this up right now, and say next year, if he runs for state rep in his district against Mitch Gore, he's going to be getting campaign financing from these tech giants or whoever, so he can try and take over state rep. Takes over state rep, now you can start implementing them statewide, which is even more dangerous. Like, I think about today, I tried ordering a pizza from Papa John's. I go to show up to the place and they say it's not here. I go, all right, and then they ask me, did you order it online? Oh, well, we've had 4 or 5 people call with that problem. They wanted to make sure the pizza was here, or they come up to get the pizza and it's not there. So now they have to do it right there. You have to wait. The whole thing's a giant clusterfuck. It's not going to work. Now you imagine just now, like ordering a pizza online and then thinking that AI is going to solve this whole problem. Now you're putting the hands of the city into a computer program and hoping that it will be thinking for itself. No. Do you even understand how dangerous this is? That we're not in control anymore. We see these hacks all the time, between banks and different servers, even social media companies. Like, do you not think that this could happen? Someone's got a better AI than you, and they're just going to take it over? I don't know. I mean, I just think of all the hospitals that got hacked recently, too, especially in the last couple of years, of how much data got stolen from China, different countries. Like, that we're just going to constantly updating it. We're going to be competing more money into just this whole thing that we could probably avoid. Doesn't sound good to me. I don't know.
Proposal.
Very good. Questions from fellow councilors? Yes, Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Hart, for pushing this initiative forward. So in particular, outcomes you attempt to achieve or arrive at with this committee?
Yes, sir. So the outcomes that I'm looking to achieve are going back to the 5 really scenarios that we look to solve for. You know, what those are, they're not defined today. Public safety, which is a big concern of mine. The call volume is a big concern of mine. There are some things I'd really like to study when it comes to the use of camera technologies and how we can protect the privacy and rights of individuals, but also how we can make Indianapolis safer. Just those overall efficiencies are extremely important to me when it comes to realigning our dollars, right? When it comes to our capital funds, if we can start creating what are called robotic process automations to help with clerical tasks, and we can make our employees more efficient, my vision is that we can then take some of those dollars and reallocate them to budgets where you can't implement AI, like drivers and mechanics and things of that nature. So those are just some of the low-hanging fruits, but it's to study these opportunities, present them back to the city, present them back to the council from both what it's going to take to create policy to make these possible from an acceptable use side on AI, what it's going to take to actually implement this from a project timeline, what it's going to take to actually put a bill of materials together. Do we have the processing power? Do we have the storage capabilities to handle these types of things? Do we have the knowledge? Does it take managed service providers to come in and help us? looking to identify all of those and then come back to the council, present those findings from a budgeting standpoint, but also from an ordinance standpoint. Are there any things that we can learn from other cities? Because the folks I know are working with other cities that are also trying to do this. So it is always good to innovate and to learn from those folks as well at the same time, instead of recreating the wheel every time. So these are some of the objectives that I'm looking to achieve at the end of the outcome from this commission.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chairwoman Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Hart, are there any costs associated with this proposal other than maybe staff or an additional cost with this commission?
So no, to your question, the only cost is the staff, that's coming from the council staff. There is language in here that, they'll help put these together, but it's all volunteer-based from all the folks that have volunteered, and dozens at this point. We have a lot of Indianapolis-based folks that want to help. There's a lot of positions available on here, but it's all volunteer-based, so it's not going to cost anything. And actually, at the end of this thing, there are organizations that are wanting to give the city money to test out some of these applications. They currently today want to do these pilots, and I'm actually holding them off at bay to say, let's do this in a smart way. So we'll actually net positive from organizations that want to invest in the city, that make sure that nothing's coming out of our pocket to pilot these initiatives.
Thank you for that. One follow-up question.
Please.
And when we do any of those tests, how do we ensure the fidelity to make sure that we're not breached on any of our security?
And that's why I'm making sure that in the language on here, we have our ISA director as part of that, and he will help us through those conversations during that time.
Thank you so much.
I don't think anything's
Mr. President.
tested, though.
Thank you very much.
That's not
Would you like to have him come
study.
forward? Yes. Councilor Boots.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilor Hart, for bringing this important subject to our attention. My experience with artificial intelligence has been a positive one, and I think it's clearly time for the city to get on board with it. The biggest downside I see, though, is not doing it the right way. My experience thus far in the legal field has been there's been some horror stories that have been on national news about people improperly adopting AI and thinking it's the savior to a lot of things, when in fact it is a mere tool to be used in a controlled way. But its potential is expansive and great. So I am all for this. I think it's time for the city, and Councilor Hart raises some excellent points about the efficiencies that we can reach, can hopefully, the objective being save salaries and expenses, and I'm not talking about losing jobs, I'm talking about expanding and leveraging our manpower to do additional things, and with the savings we achieve, use those for other functions, whether it be manpower or programming or what have you. So I am all for this, and with Councilor Hart's permission, I would like to be a co-sponsor of the proposal.
Most certainly, I'd be happy to have it.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Additional comments from councilors? All right, seeing none. Councilor Hart, could you, I think we have someone from ISA here, is that right?
That is correct. We do have Colin Hill in attendance today.
I'd love to have him come forward and give his thoughts on this.
Thank you, Mr. President, councilors. My name is Colin Hill, CIO for the City County and Director of ISA. Councilor Hart spoke to me several months ago in regard to potentially forming this commission, and I can't tell you how much I support the idea of moving forward with this. I think there's efficiencies out there throughout the entire city county that will dramatically improve results for residents, for employees within the city county. There's countless benefits that honestly we talked about it today in the Information Technology Board for some extent, as we actually passed an enterprise AI policy on not necessarily the acceptable use, but it was more of an advisory on how to use AI within the city county, considering the inherent bias with some generative AI, some of the bias with how you enter information into AI, that entering information into public AI places, could you want to keep that information as public information, and you want to not necessarily put city-county restricted information into something like that. So there, to Councilor Boots' point, there are pitfalls to AI, but the benefit that we could have as a city-county, I think, far exceeds what those pitfalls may be. So from an ISA standpoint and from my personal standpoint, I fully support this commission.
Very good. Any additional comments, questions for Mr. Hill? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
Colleagues, do we have any questions, any additional thoughts?
Mr. President,
Councilor Brown.
I move that proposal number 362, 2023, go to the full council to be passed recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, that motion carries. Is there any additional business for us this evening? All right. Is there a second on that movement? Second. All right. Everyone, thank you very much for attending. We're adjourned.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. It's just going to be so dangerous. You know, the dispatch and the call volume is like you're going to try and automate everything. And I think if you're talking about a 911 or a 911 call being automated, press 2 if you're in extreme danger. What's your level of danger right now? I'm sorry, citizen, but the level of your voice is a little too high. Can you speak more clearly? Can you imagine some migrant calling in and all they know is Spanglish and you're trying to the AI can't understand them? The camera thing that he was talking about, man, there's so many layers to that because we already know that we have cameras that don't at intersections, and I've been told this by IMP. There's a crash or a chase or something, and trying to get a track of the camera footage. Guess what? Broke, pal. There ain't nothing there. So now you're going to be having more cameras, and we already know that they have plate trackers on them. So they're going to be monitoring people 24/7. Well, that's a lot of information. So, and you're going to need server farms for that, right? You're going to need a spot for that, which will have to be approved by the city council. And then you'll have to bid it out. You'll have to have people do maintenance to the server. It'll have to be in the perfect conditions for it. You'll need coolers, programs, and whatever. And where's all that money going to come from? And they already started talking about, well, the human capital. A perfect example is making things more efficient inside the government. And I know what they're talking about. They're talking about they're talking about BNS between permits. They're talking about the recorder's office. So they're talking about eliminating some of these jobs. But these people really don't get paid that much anyway. I guess if you include pensions and insurance, maybe. But now you have to go up another level of making sure you have qualified people for this job. Now, what happens if you have some kind of psychopath that wants to take this information and do a little bit of spying on their own? Maybe put in a little back door so they can do their own testing. Or maybe you got some creep that wants to spy on women. Anybody ever think about that? You have to put in every worst case scenario that's going to happen. And it just annoys me so much how short-sighted everybody is. I get it. It's an advisory board. Well, we know where this is going to go. And we know that you're going to need money for this. And we have these big tech giants that are going to want to invest money into it. Who are they? And where's the oversight on that? You'll need a board for oversight of how to manipulate this information. And it's just I don't know, it's just a house of cards getting ready to build this whole thing up in any which way you want. But at the end of the day, we know it's going to be weaponized against the people that have to fund this whole thing. And I don't like it. It is very funny, though, that Dan Boots got very excited about this thing because he's a lawyer. We know by now that lawyers are going to be getting replaced by AI. I've already seen it. Some guy wants to have a legal document made up. AI takes care of that, and he has his lawyer double check. So what happens? Instead of having to pay for hundreds or thousands of dollars to pay some kind of lawyer to do all the same work, All you need is for a guy to do it, a actual lawyer, double check to make sure it's good. Go, you just saved a bunch of money. So Dan Boots, you better get ready because, you know, time's up, buddy. Your job is going to be... I don't know anything about this Colin Hill guy, but it does make me worry. Because we know that there's always a human element in this thing, and everything good always becomes weaponized. And I can't believe still, like, this is where I think my theory of Michael Paul Hart running for office so he can get his campaign might be true. We'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Candidacy filing doesn't start until next month. And we'll know in a month and a half of what's going to happen. I get the whole dispatch and call volume thing, and I get the automation for things, but automations are no good anyway. You still have to have someone double check it. I don't know. We're going to see where this whole thing gets figured out. They approved that. Now they have to find an advisory board. See what happens next year.